In the bustling heart of Onitsha, Nigeria, Chinedu and Adaeze were widely known for their tremendous wealth and influence, living in a majestic compound that soared high with intricately carved ebony gates and glimmering brass walls that captured the admiration and envy of all who passed by. Their fortunes the subject of many legends and folk songs throughout the land. Yet beneath the dazzling facade of wealth and grandeur lay a home riddled with sorrow and strife. For their marriage, arranged from birth by two influential trading families, had been devoid of true affection, built instead on the rigid foundations of duty and economic advantage. For 15 long years, they had endured a loveless union, each stubbornly clinging to pride and self-importance, treating their relationship as nothing more than a contractual obligation meant to fortify business ties and perpetuate their family legacies. A union where neither was willing to compromise or show vulnerability. And as the public marveled at their opulent lifestyle, few could have imagined the cold silence and ceaseless quarrels that permeated the halls of their compound. For although the grand dining hall and luxurious chambers bore witness to lavish feasts and glittering gatherings, they also concealed bitter arguments and unspoken resentments that festered behind closed doors. One fateful evening, while the compound lay cloaked in the hush of dusk and the weight of unmet expectations, Chinedu, burdened by the relentless pressure from his kin to produce an heir, a child to carry on the family name and secure their sprawling empire, gathered the courage to broach the subject with Adaeze, a topic she had long avoided, dismissing it with a cold indifference that struck him like a blow. For as he softly insisted, 15 years have passed, Adaeze, and our families persist in asking when we will bless them with an heir, a child to inherit our legacy. Adaeze, who had been leisurely perusing an ornate catalog of luxurious fabrics and accessories, barely lifted her gaze and retorted with a dismissive sneer. A child? I have painstakingly built my beauty and grace, and I will not risk that delicate balance for something as unpredictable as motherhood. Her words laden with a detachment that left Chinedu feeling isolated and crushed beneath the weight of familial expectations and his own unfulfilled desires. From that night forward, the silence between them deepened, and their already fragmented existence began to unravel further as each retreated into separate worlds. Adaeze immersing herself in extravagant social gatherings and the relentless pursuit of maintaining her refined image, while Chinedu sought solace in secret liaisons and furtive affairs that only compounded the void in his heart, a void that could never be filled by wealth or superficial indulgences. And it was during these troubled times that Adaeze, exasperated by the mounting tension and the inability to communicate directly with her husband, decided to enlist the help of a young maid recommended by a local household agency, a decision that would irrevocably alter the course of events within the compound. For among the many hopeful applicants, her eyes fell upon a modest yet determined young woman named Chinelo, whose resume told a tale of hardship and quiet resilience, an embodiment of the spirit of those who struggled against the odds. Born into poverty, yet possessing an inner strength that shone through her soft brown eyes and neatly tied hair, a stark contrast to the opulence that surrounded her new workplace. Initially, Chinelo was simply grateful for the opportunity to work in such a prestigious household, as the modest salary promised a lifeline for her ailing mother, who was fighting a costly battle against illness in a modest infirmary. But as she began to navigate the labyrinthine corridors of the compound, cleaning the marble floors that reflected the brilliance of crystal chandeliers, and dusting the grand rooms that echoed with the silent sorrow of its inhabitants, she quickly sensed an ominous tension that permeated every corner, a tension that became particularly palpable when Chinedu's watchful eyes frequently followed her every movement, a gaze that seemed to carry both an unsettling admiration and a darker, more predatory intent. One humid evening, while Chinelo was diligently sweeping the study of Chinedu, she found herself caught in a moment of uneasy silence as the master of the house appeared in the doorway, his expression masked by a false charm as he remarked in a low, measured tone, "Your work brings a new light to this room, Chinelo, a testament to your diligence." Words that at first seemed merely complimentary, but soon took on a more sinister undertone, as he stepped closer, his presence overwhelming and his eyes glinting with an unsettling intensity that made her skin crawl. And before she could retreat or protest, Chinedu's hand clamped around her arm with a grip that brooked no refusal, propelling her into a nightmare of violation and despair as he committed an unspeakable act in the dimly lit confines of the study, an act that shattered her spirit and left her reeling with terror and shame. While his cold voice, dripping with menace, issued a chilling warning. If you dare speak of this to anyone, you will suffer consequences that no one can imagine. A threat that bound her in a web of silence and fear, ensuring that the dark secret would remain hidden beneath the veneer of the compound's glittering opulence. In the weeks that followed, the aftermath of that fateful night weighed heavily on Chinelo, her every waking moment haunted by the violation she had endured. And as if fate had further conspired against her, she soon discovered that she was carrying a child, a life that had been born from that dreadful transgression, a burden that filled her with both sorrow and a desperate determination to survive. For she knew that the existence of this unborn child would not only shatter the delicate equilibrium of her already fragile life, but would also serve as a permanent reminder of the cruelty that lurked behind the compound's gilded doors. Tormented by the dual burdens of her own trauma and the responsibility of nurturing this child, Chinelo resolved to confront Chinedu and speak the painful truth that she had been forced to hide. And one day, when the compound was quiet and Adaiz was away indulging in yet another extravagant social engagement, she summoned all her courage and stepped into Chinedu's private study. Her voice trembling as she confessed, "Sir, I must tell you that I am with child, and the healer has informed me that the time has come when I can no longer hide what is growing within me." Words that hung in the air like a heavy curse, prompting a moment of cold silence from Chinedu, before his expression contorted into one of furious disdain as he barked. "You were meant to take care of this discreetly. I entrusted you with the means to erase this blemish upon our honor, and now you have failed me terribly." His anger, like a raging tempest, only intensified as he continued in a tone of icy detachment. "This child is not my concern. It is an unwelcome burden that will tarnish the reputation of our family. And if you dare reveal this truth to Adaizi or anyone else, you will face retribution beyond your worst nightmares." A declaration that left Chinelo trembling, her eyes brimming with tears of despair as she realized that her fate was sealed by the very man who had shattered her innocence. Meanwhile, the news of Chinelo's condition soon reached the ears of Adaizi. Not through direct confession, but via furtive whispers at one of her lavish gatherings, where a well-informed guest remarked, "Have you noticed that Chinelo seems to have changed? There is a certain roundness to her that wasn't there before. Could she be with child?" This comment, though meant casually, ignited a spark of suspicion in Adai's heart, and as she began to piece together the signs, the separate quarters, the hushed conversations, and the furtive glances exchanged in the corridors, it soon became clear to her that the source of the secret lay in the malevolent actions of her husband, Chinedu. With her refined dignity morphing into an icy fury, Adaiz summoned Chinelo to her opulent boudoir and demanded, in a tone that brooked no argument, an explanation, exclaiming, "You are pregnant! How could this be? And who is responsible for this disgrace?" Overwhelmed by fear and desperation, Chinelo could only murmur the painful truth, her voice barely audible as she recounted the harrowing events without naming the man responsible, a silence that spoke volumes and sealed her fate. After which Adaiz, her eyes burning with indignation, wasted no time in dismissing Chinelo from the compound, ordering her to leave and threatening that any further defiance would be met with the full force of her influence, leaving Chinelo with nothing but a few meager belongings and the crushing reality of homelessness. Forced to wander the bustling, indifferent streets of Onitsha, Chinelo grappled with the loss of her sanctuary, the haunting memories of that violent night, and the growing life within her that she was now destined to raise alone, all the while battling the despair that threatened to engulf her as she sought refuge in the only solace she could find, a fierce, unwavering love for the child that had been born of darkness yet promised the possibility of light. In time, Chinelo gave birth to triplets, three boys whose striking features bore an uncanny resemblance to Chinedu's, each one a living testament to the night that had irreversibly altered her life. And though these children became her sole beacon of hope amid the gloom, raising them in a world that had already shown her so much cruelty was a daily struggle that pushed her to the brink, forcing her to eke out a meager existence by peddling small wares in the crowded markets of Onitsha, where every transaction was a battle for survival and every coin earned a hard-fought victory against the relentless tide of adversity. As the years passed and the children grew, Chinelo's spirit, though battered and scarred, found strength in their laughter and resilience, even as she mourned the loss of her ailing mother, whose absence left a void that could never be filled. And as she navigated the harsh realities of life on the unforgiving streets, she clung to the hope that one day justice, or perhaps redemption, might find its way to her. Even as the grand compound she had once served continued to stand as a monument to cold opulence and shattered dreams, a place where Chinedu and Adaeze remained ensnared in a loveless marriage defined by duty, pride, and regret, their lives marked by a series of missed opportunities for tenderness and understanding. And though they continued to parade their wealth and status in high society, the emptiness within them grew ever more profound, with Chinedu tormented by the memory of that dark night and the echo of his children's laughter that once filled the silent corridors of his study, while Adaeze, consumed by her own vanity and the relentless pursuit of preserving her youthful beauty, remained oblivious to the deeper truths hidden beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect existence, ultimately realizing too late that true wealth was not measured by the glittering facade of their compound, but by the warmth of genuine love and the bonds that tie a family together, bonds that she had callously dismissed and shattered with her indifference. Furthermore, as time passed, the harsh realities of life became interwoven with the memories of that tragic night, and every corner of the bustling city of Onitsha seemed to whisper the sorrowful tale of the fallen maid, whose quiet strength belied the deep pain that marred her every step. For in the labyrinthine alleys and vibrant markets, where the scent of roasted corn mingled with the chatter of merchants and the rhythmic cadence of local drums, Chinelo's struggle for survival resonated with those who had known hardship, serving as a poignant reminder that behind every glittering facade there often lay stories of sacrifice and unspoken grief. Every day, as she balanced hope and despair, she recalled the opulent halls of the compound and the haunting expressions of Chinedu and Adaeze, whose lives had been consumed by a relentless pursuit of status and outward appearances, even as their inner worlds crumbled under the weight of regret and isolation. Yet amidst the relentless trials of poverty and sorrow, Chinelo found solace in the gentle laughter of her triplets, whose innocent smiles became a balm to her battered spirit, even as the ghosts of her past loomed large in the quiet moments before dawn. And these children, each a mirror of the man who had so carelessly inflicted pain, grew up under the constant shadow of societal scorn and harsh judgments from a world that often failed to see the complexity of human suffering. As they played in the dusty courtyards and narrow streets, their laughter emerged as a defiant celebration of life, a life that Chinelo fought to nurture despite the many obstacles fate had placed in her path. While in the hearts of those living in the humble neighborhoods of Onitsha, the tragic tale of Chinelo evolved into a somber legend, recounted by elders around evening fires, and etched into local folklore as a cautionary tale of unchecked power and the corrosive effects of pride, a story that served as a reminder that even the most opulent palaces could not shield one from the consequences of moral decay. Meanwhile, in the lofty towers of the compound, the once proud Chinedu found himself increasingly tormented by restless nights filled with visions of the past, a past where the echoes of guilt and regret whispered incessantly in every silent moment. And as he wandered the empty corridors of his mansion, the stark contrast between the grandeur of his surroundings and the hollowness of his soul became ever more apparent, driving him toward despair, while Adaeze too discovered that the relentless pursuit of beauty and perfection was an endless, futile quest, For each mirror she gazed into revealed not the timeless elegance she so desperately sought to preserve, but the inevitable decay of a heart that had long forsaken genuine love for the transient allure of superficiality, so that her days, once filled with the dazzling lights of social gatherings and high society admiration, gradually turned into an endless cycle of vanity and regret, leaving their loveless union, forged in ambition and maintained by a veneer of respectability, as a tragic emblem of the cost of forsaking one's humanity in the pursuit of power and legacy. Indeed, as the grand compound slowly began to show signs of neglect, a slow but inevitable decay that mirrored the moral disintegration of its masters, the ornate carvings and grand gates, though still inspiring awe in visitors, could no longer hide the cracks forming not only in the masonry, but in the very foundation of a life built on pretense and exploitation. And in a twist of poetic irony, the triplets, each bearing the troubled legacy of their origins, grew to embody a blend of resilience and sorrow, their lives a testament to the enduring spirit of a mother who had suffered unspeakable pain, yet refused to succumb to the darkness threatening to engulf her, with every setback met by a quiet determination to protect her children and carve out a future where the wounds of the past might one day be healed by the light of compassion and understanding. Even as Chinelo toiled day after day in the unforgiving streets of Onitsha, earning her livelihood through relentless labor and the occasional kindness of strangers who recognized her quiet dignity, the specter of her ordeal remained ever present, a constant reminder of a time when power was abused and innocence shattered, and a force that, despite her best efforts, continued to shape her destiny in visible and hidden ways. While the vibrant rhythms of Onitsha, with its pulsating markets and ceaseless city hum, served as a backdrop to her struggles, where dreams and despair intermingled in a tapestry as intricate as the traditional fabrics worn by local women. And in that bustling chaos, Chinelo's story became intertwined with the fates of many who had known loss and hardship, each a thread in the rich, often painful tapestry of the human experience. With each passing season, as the harsh sun yielded to cool, starlit nights, Chinelo discovered fragile moments of hope. A kind gesture from a stranger, a shared smile, or the gentle caress of a mother's hand that reminded her that even amid profound sorrow, the possibility of renewal and redemption still existed. And so, as the grand compound of Chinedu and Adaze faded into a relic of a bygone era, its legacy mired in regret and unspoken sins, the tale of Chinelo and her resilient triplets continued to unfold in the shadowed corners of Onitsha, a narrative of survival and quiet defiance echoing through narrow alleys and humble dwellings, resonating with those who had endured the harsh judgments of fate and the unyielding weight of societal expectations, a story challenging the notion that true wealth lies in opulence, for it taught that genuine fortune is found in the unbreakable bonds of love and the courage to rise above adversity. Even as the memories of Chinedu's cruelty, Adaze's indifference, and the unspeakable acts that had forever altered a humble maid's life remained like deep scars upon the hearts of those who had witnessed them, there emerged a quiet revolution in Onitsha. A collective yearning for justice and the restoration of dignity, a desire to reclaim a narrative long dominated by the exploitation of the powerful and the silencing of the oppressed. And in hushed conversations around communal fires and secret gatherings, the story of Chinelo and her children was recounted not as one of victimhood, but as a stirring call to action, a reminder that every act of cruelty carries the seeds of resistance, and that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the human spirit possesses an extraordinary capacity to endure, to hope, and ultimately to transform pain into purpose. Thus, in the annals of Onitsha's folklore, the legacy of that once grand compound, inhabited by a loveless couple and marred by hidden transgressions, evolved into a timeless parable serving both as a cautionary tale and a beacon of hope for those who believed redemption was possible even in the darkest of times, urging future generations to value empathy over entitlement, and to recognize that the true measure of one's worth lies not in fleeting trappings of wealth, but in the enduring strength of a heart that has learned to forgive, love, and rise above the shadows of a troubled past. And so, amid the ever-changing rhythms of life, and the timeless dance of joy and sorrow, the tragic saga of Chinedu, Adais, and Chinelo, woven together by threads of ambition, betrayal, loss, and resilience, became a lasting testament to the human condition, a story that, despite its many heartaches, ultimately celebrated the indomitable power of hope and the belief that even the most fractured lives can find a path toward healing and renewal. A path illuminated by the simple yet profound truth that every new dawn brings the promise of change, and that within the chaos of existence there remains an eternal, steadfast light waiting to guide those who dare to seek it.